Ricky, you there?
I'm here.
Hey,
I
all
am.
right, all right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Grandpa.
Pawpaw?
Thank you so much.
That's great.
What is your pawpaw name gonna be?
I think they're gonna call me Pop or Pops, one or the other.
Whatever they want.
I'm
Whatever
Pop.
they want, exactly.
That's right. I'm happy with Grandpa or whatever they
That's
want.
right, whatever they want, and the answer is usually yes.
Yeah. We're ready.
We're ready. Okay. Let's we'll call this meeting to order. If everyone would please rise. Mr. Creelo will lead us in invocation.
Dear Lord, we ask your blessing upon this board, the people that depend upon it. We ask you to guide us in our decisions, that they are for the betterment of those we serve. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Everybody cross their word, repeat after me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Lake Charles Harbor and Terminal District meeting, March 1, 2023. This is a special meeting?
Special.
All right, special meeting.
Special meeting.
The board encourages public comments and questions regarding all agenda items. Persons wishing to do so should complete a speaker's card, which is at the entrance to the boardroom. When speaking or asking a question or on an agenda item, one should, in addition to completing the card, come to the microphone, be recognized, and provide your name, address, and phone number. Comments by individuals will be limited to 3 minutes. I guess we should first recognize Mr. Self and announce that he became a grandfather for the first time, just to put that on the record. Congratulations, Rick.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to also recognize Lee Turner. Ms. Turner is with Senator Cassidy's office. I want to thank you for being here. Welcome. Okay, the first matter on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the January 23 regular meeting and the February 13, 2023 special meeting.
Mr. President, I move adoption of the minutes.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Passes. All right, first submission, 2023-004, the responsive bid of Lard Oil Company. Mr. Self, are you going to address that?
I am, yes, Mr. President. Staff requests the Board of Commissioners to accept the bid of Lard Oil to supply motor fuel for vehicles and equipment use, and further authorize the Executive Director, Richard Self, to execute all documents therewith. We went out for bid earlier this year. We received bids in February. Lard was the low bid for the fuel. Delta Fuel was a no bid. They declined bidding, and then Mansfield asked a few questions but did not end up submitting a bid. And as you'll see on the submission itself, the unleaded fuel was 17 cents over index, all-pro diesel was 12 cents over index, and diesel was 20 cents over index.
We have a
I so
motion.
move.
I'm sorry.
I'd make a motion that we accept
I'll second that.
approval.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Bales, by Ms. Bales, rather, second by Mr. Dorman. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry, Mr. Dixon.
I got you.
All right, motion passes, or submission passes. That brings us to 2023-005, authorizing a First Amendment to the ground lease with Martin Operating. Mr. Self?
Yes, sir. This relates to, well, first the preamble. Approval is sought to amend the current lease agreement with Martin Energy Services to extend the lease, the term of the lease. This relates to an amendment with Martin also known as Talons. It's a 1.1 acre lease along the Industrial Canal. This lease dates back to 1998. The lease is set to expire in May 2023. This amendment adds 1 5-year term and then 4-year additional 5-year term. So all in all, 5 5-year terms. And the lease rate would be at $2,000 per month, per acre.
I make a motion we approve.
Motion by Mr. Dixon,
Second.
second by Mr. Creelo. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. All right, that brings us to submission 2023-006, accepting the responsive bid of Doggett Machinery Services regarding a John Deere 1050K dozer for BT1. Mr. Self?
Yes, Mr. President. Staff requests the Board of Commissioners to accept the lowest responsive bid from Doggett Machinery Services for the procurement of the 2023 John Deere 1050K dozer for bulk terminal number 1, subject to the approval of the Executive Director and General Counsel that all appropriate conditions have been met and all requirements of the proposed documents have been met, and further authorizing the Executive Director to execute all documents therewith. We went out for bid in January. We received 3 bids. Doggett was the low bid. Again, these dozers are used to manage the petroleum coke pile that we use at BT1. Again, Doggett was the low bid at a cost of $849,000. We had budgeted or an estimate of about $1 million for this project.
Mr. President, I move adoption of submission 2023-006.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Creelo, second by Mr. Prudhomme. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Self, next is 2023-007.
Yes, Mr. President.
Please.
The staff requests the Board of Commissioners to authorize the Executive Director to enter into a professional services agreement for engineering services with Lanier & Associates Consulting Engineers to provide design services for the conveyor 6A modifications at BT1. This submission relates to engineering services for the design modifications of conveyor 6A, one of the original components installed at BT1. The new tripper runs alongside conveyor 6A, and with the new calcine ship loader, it was determined that the new tripper would be substantially larger than the original, requiring some modifications to the conveying system. We estimate a total of about $342,000 plus a $68,000 contingency for a total of $410,400 for engineering services. And by the way, the source will be FEMA 428 funds for this.
Mr. President, I move we adopt submission
Second.
2023-007.
Motion by Mr. Prudhomme, second by Mr. Dixon.
No,
I'm sorry?
Mary. Mary, second.
Oh, second by Ms. Bales, I apologize.
That's okay.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 2023-009, contract with Weiser Security Services, Mr. Self?
Yes, Mr. President. We use,
Oh, wait,
Wait,
I'm
we
sorry,
hold on,
I
we
skipped
skipped one.
I skipped 008, which is a pipeline servitude agreement with LNG.
Okay. Approval is sought to enter into a right-of-way agreement with Lake Charles LNG and Prairie Lane Company for the relocation of the existing pipeline owned and operated by Alcoa. This is a pipeline, an Alcoa pipeline that needs to be relocated. And again, it needs to be relocated associated with Lake Charles LNG project.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
Mary, you second. All right, we have have a motion by Ms. Dixon, second by Ms. Bales. Any discussion? John, do we need any information on this?
No, sir. This is just a relocation of existing pipeline so that it doesn't interfere with the planned development of that site. All parties have signed off and are in agreement.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. 2023-009 regarding Weisser Security Services. Ms. Self?
Yes, sir. Staff requests the Board of Commissioners grant the Executive Director authorization to contract with Weiser Security Services to provide supplemental guard services at port facilities. We essentially use contract guard services to supplement the gate guards that we have on staff. Periodically, some of those positions are difficult to continue to have filled, and so we use Weiser or other contract services from time to time to fill that void for us. So it's a third-party security company that we use, and we estimate we budgeted for 2023 about $354,000 in cost for the supplemental guard services.
Ms. Bales makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dixon. Any discussion?
Ricky, on the, when you use this service, I guess theoretically our payroll for guard services should go down, so one should offset the other, correct, through the budget process?
That's right, and it may not be that noticeable from time to time because it may be one or two gate guard positions that are unfilled, and then we're using the contract guards for that. But yeah, it'll go back and forth between contract services and payroll. That's correct.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to submission 2023-010 regarding a cooperative endeavor agreement with McNeese for the LNG Center for Excellence. Ms. Self?
Yes, Mr. President. Staff is requesting board approval of a resolution authorizing the executive director to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with McNeese State University for the McNeese LNG Center for Excellence. It is going to involve a corporate endeavor agreement with McNeese. We would spread this $500,000 cost over a period of 3 years. And those payments would be tied to specific milestones, such as 1/3 upon notice to proceed, 1/3 upon 50% completion, and 1/3 upon 75% completion. And I believe we have here at the meeting Dr. Burkell and some of his other staff to discuss the project for us.
We do. Dr. Burkell, welcome to have you.
Mr. Lorenzi, ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for this opportunity to let you know about our request for funding for the LNG Center of Excellence. I have with me our Executive Vice President of Internal Operations and Office of Advancement, Dr. Wade Roos, and the LNG Center of Excellence Executive Director, Mr. Jason French. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Jason. He's going to provide you with a presentation that'll give you the scope of our LNG project and where we are staying right now with it.
Thank you, Commissioners, for having us today. I'll try to be brief. I know that you are pretty well briefed on this project as well. The LNG Center of Excellence at McNeese State University actually began with a $2.8 million federal grant that the university received in 2020. That $2.8 million grant, while ambitious in its scope, was designed to provide a workforce training facility for the growing LNG, the growing and globally important LNG industry in our backyard. Largely designed around providing workforce development opportunities for the existing plants that were here, and to a lesser degree also providing a pipeline for our students to engage in the LNG industry. Since 2020, the scope of this project, the scope and ambition of this project has grown significantly. The way I describe it, this project, we have $34.5 billion of investment on the ground already in the operating LNG plants. We are certainly the global epicenter of LNG here in Southwest Louisiana. But what this project represents is an important second phase for the LNG industry, how it relates to this community. We've got it's very impressive inside the fence lines at the LNG facilities. We have good corporate citizens, but what this is a further integration of that industry into our community, in that we're going to be creating a pipeline for students in Southwest Louisiana and across Louisiana, opportunities to be employed in this industry that's in their backyard. As you can see here from the first picture, the artist rendering of what this facility will look like, and I'll show you the location here in just a moment. This is no longer a $2.8 million building. As our ambition has grown, our building has had to grow to meet it as well. What you're seeing here is about a 24,000, depending on final designs, and we're working through that right now, 24,000 to 30,000 square foot complex on McNeese State's campus that will serve as a training center for training, research, and collaboration on LNG issues. Dr. Burkell and I, when we're talking about it, talk about this center as having three key objectives. When we were a little bit smaller in our ambition, the center was really designed around workforce training. That still is a central component of what we're going to be doing. But it now emphasizes much more the opportunities that we're going to create for Louisiana students and McNeese students for employment opportunities. And obviously, that's going to have a heavy component with our School of Engineering, but it won't be limited to our School of Engineering. Already, our School of Business is offering a certificate program, an LNG certificate program, a 6-course program, the basics of business in LNG. And we're looking to identify other opportunities through what, I've got to come up with a better term for it, but I'm calling it a mentoring program on steroids. So for students who are interested in accounting or human resources and still want to work in this globally significant industry in their backyard, we're hoping that we can create opportunities for them through this center as well. So that is objective number one. Number two came to us as an exciting opportunity and really does represent a further expansion of what we're doing. Under our congressional delegation's leadership, in 2020, PHMSA, under the U.S. Department of Transportation, their reauthorization in 2020 created a national center of excellence in LNG safety. We have been working very closely with the University of Louisiana, Lafayette, and a number of other institutions across the Gulf Coast to ensure that that institution is physically based here in Lake Charles. And while it is not final yet, Congress has allocated money for the first year of operations of that center, and we are working very closely with elected leadership, with the universities across the Gulf Coast, to ensure that that center is operated here. What that creates for us is an opportunity to bring federal research dollars to Lake Charles, where the center is located, where the industry is located, to research best practices in the industry, and to really establish, as I said, this important second chapter of the industry, to establish Southwest Louisiana as not just the physical plants where LNG are located, but truly being a center for the globally significant industry. And then finally, and I think one of the most important, and I know I'm talking a little fast, I'm just trying to be respectful of your time, so if you need me to slow down, just tell me. Establishing Louisiana as a premier thought leader in LNG, and what I say for that, for shorthand, 2 years from now when this center is operational, what I've told the President, my goal is that if the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Fox News, CNN, if anyone's writing a story or doing coverage of the U.S. LNG industry, they should be coming to McNeese and Lake Charles. And that is absolutely within our grasp, and we are laying out a plan to build that. The building is key to getting this started. As you see at the bottom of the slide, the center within the center, that's that national center that I was talking about. It is separate but very much attached to this building. We're building the building whether we get the national center, but we have been very strategic in pursuing this national center, and it will be a real feather in the cap for Lake Charles and Southwest Louisiana and McNeese State when we get that, and we hope to have that designation by the end of 2023. Just a few more pictures to show you. This just orients you, for those of you who may not know where the site is. Near the corner of, if you're heading south on Ryan Street towards campus, at the Sale Street intersection, just to the right of that, of the new Student Health Care Center and between the new bank building. That property there that has been cleared will be the site for the center. This just gives you, it probably doesn't make you probably can't see the detail on this too much, but just a layout of the building. We're going to have substantial office space, classroom space, conference space so we can host future LNG conferences and symposiums, as well as a virtual reality lab, a working LNG unit a small model LNG unit on the site with a control room as well, so students can get hands-on training at the facility as well. Other views of the building from the outside, and this gives you an idea of the scope and size of the building that we're building. Very much appreciate your consideration of our request for this. We have been making substantial progress in the fundraising for the building. Anticipate breaking ground in June. We've had the support thus far of the city and the parish, and certainly appreciate your consideration of supporting as well, as in addition to private foundation support and industry support that is continuing to grow, and we believe will fully cover the cost of this building. And I'd say, I always look to Wade for where we are on the money, but we are in the 75% range on the building at this point. And so this building is not a pie in the sky. This project will start in June, and are very much looking forward to its construction. So with that, if you have any other questions, I or Dr. Burkell or Wade would be happy to answer, but yeah, thank you.
I make
Thank
a
you, sir.
motion that we approve.
Motion by Mr. Dixon, second.
A second.
Second by Ms. Bales. Any discussion?
I have a discussion here. Y'all gonna be separated, your Maggie's gonna be separated with Sale Street?
It's up there by, it's where the old Charles Cinema was.
It's where the old Charles Cinema was.
It's gonna be across.
That's right. So it'll be in between where St. Michael's Church is. Now there's the Jeff Davis Bank, and there's the empty lot.
Empty lot.
Property, and then there's the old Jeff Davis Bank is now our student health center and urgent care center that we developed. So it will be on Sale Street.
Didn't we sponsor that as well?
Okay, will you put a crosswalk so the students can dodge cars?
Urgent care?
Yeah, our students will be able to adequately get across to get to there'll be pathways for them to get to.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the canes are stopping enough traffic.
That's all.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations. All right.
Y'all don't have to stay for this if you don't want to.
Thank y'all. All right, that's, brings us to the January financial briefing note.
Yes, Mr. President.
Cameron?
So for the month ended January 31st, 2023, we generated revenues of around $4 million, which was favorable about $400,000. We saw higher petroleum coke. Actually, we generated revenue that doubled what we budgeted. So very impressive month, and that actually continued into February. So far looking good on the pet coke side. Partial offset to that was lower than expected bay rate just due to the timing of the vessel that we anticipated in January. On the expense side, we had expenses of around $2.7 million, which was unfavorable, about $100,000. Property insurance premium came in a little higher than anticipated, and legal expenses were a little higher. Depreciation expense was favorable, about $100,000, just due to timing of the completion of some projects. Non-operating revenues and expenses, we were favorable, $2.7 million. That's strictly due to the timing of our P3 payment. So for the Calcasieu River Fund payment, we actually did that in February, and it was budgeted in January. EBITDA was $1.1 million, and we generated cash flow of $1.8 million, so a relatively good month. On the balance sheet side, kind of a continuation of what we saw in 22, some of 21. Increases and decreases primarily due to hurricane recovery expenses, insurance premiums being paid, and some GASB 87 stuff where we record leases, we record the full receivable of a lease as soon as we acquire that lease, and then payments on the outstanding bonds. So, any questions on the financials? If there are none, I can roll right into the next step, which is a FEMA GOSEP report. So on the FEMA GOSEP side, you'll see that project totals increased about $24 million. As mentioned before, project totals will increase and decrease as they go through the process. And I mentioned to y'all last meeting that 4, 5, and 6 actually increased substantially, higher than we anticipated, and that's great news. 4, 5, and 6 increased. Some of the amounts for our cranes increased, and those are moving pretty well through the process. A few of those are actually going through expert review and being reviewed in Washington right now, so very close to being obligated, so in a good spot. Any
One
questions?
thing needs to change on the bottom where it says receive, we need 3 more zeros behind that.
Well, hopefully as 4, 5, and 6 get pushed through and those cranes get pushed through, we'll start spending that money and that money will start coming in. So hopefully that number will be higher here in the near future.
On a note on that, I should add is GOSEP has hired an independent firm, I guess, to start reviewing projects. So we're starting to see a little bit of a slowdown on that. So we'll keep you updated on it. We might reach out for help to help push those through. So far, it hasn't been bad yet. We just started receiving comments from this new firm.
All right.
Any other questions?
Administration?
All right. So we actually recently went through a ratings review with Moody's in which they reconfirmed our A2 rating, which we had increased in 2018. So good news there, and we're mostly working on supplying information for the audit. So that'll be upcoming in a few meetings. Any questions? Thank you.
Any questions? All right. And Channing, navigation report?
Yes, sir. In addition to my written report, I'd like to let you know that as of yesterday, we received information from the Picard Group that the final step of federal funding for fiscal year 23 is finally taking place. Just to remind you of the process, the President issues a budget. Congress doesn't like the budget. Congress goes through the process and passes a budget. And part of that, the passage of the budget includes discretionary funds that go to the Corps of Engineers. And the Corps of Engineers decides how to spend these funds as opposed to Congress, which results in something that looks a lot like a rugby scrum, with the ports getting in there trying to get their share of the money. The Corps issued it's called its work plan yesterday, and we got $19,900,000, essentially $20 million additional dollars over the money in the President's budget. So to give you a recap, we asked for $54 million in O&M and $19 million in construction. The President's budget gave us $28.616 million in O&M and no construction funding. The House Appropriations and the Senate Appropriations both gave us the President's amount for O&M, but they gave us $9 million for construction. So the $19 million that we got yesterday, that was announced yesterday, brings us up to a total of $48,941,000 in change for O&M for fiscal year 23. And we still have the $9 million that we were given for construction. And that compares to $54 million we needed in O&M and $19.5 million we needed in construction. So we got nearly everything we needed in O&M. We're short about $10 million in construction. Construction will continue, but not at the pace that it would have continued had we gotten the full amount we asked for. There's a couple of details that have to be ironed out. There's money that exists from past years, but essentially we now know what's going to happen for FY23, only 5 months after the beginning of the fiscal year. And we expect the FY24 budget to come out of the President's office sometime soon. Typically, it's out on February 3rd. Didn't happen last year, didn't happen this year. We think it'll be out sometime this week or next, maybe. So with that, that brings you up to speed on dredge funding. I'll answer any questions on that or my written report.
Anybody have any quick thing for Jane? Good report.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Todd, operations and trading.
Yes, sir. The port continues to be busy and things continue to improve. At City Docks, we handled about 14,000 tons of aluminum trihydrate. At the Turning Basin, they loaded 8 barges, and then there was 1 bulk rice vessel, so it totaled about 40,500 tons. We did 3 cargo transfers. We had another lumber shipment, 34,050 cubic meters, and a steel structure shipment. It's about 5,000 cubic meters. Port Aggregates unloaded a ship that's about 54,000 tons of limestone. And at City Docks, we're anticipating another 3 vessels of lumber and another hydrate vessel and about 6 more barges. At BT1, recently we handled 161,000 tons of petroleum coke, along with 5,700 tons of calcine and about 37,000 tons of barite. Including the ship that we're loading right now at BT1, we're going to probably do about another 97,000 tons. We've got 3 schedules, 3 ships, plus the one we're loading on the books right now. We're discharging a 18,000-ton rutile ship, and there's a barite ship waiting to come in right now that's got about 43,000 tons on it. We've been playing a lot of musical chairs at BT1, trying to keep everybody, trying to be as fair as we can and bringing everybody in and out. And so it's been like I said, we've been playing a lot of musical chairs, but we seem to be keeping everybody as happy as we can. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Excuse me. Terrence.
Yes, sir. Currently working on 2 new cargo opportunities. One would be a project cargo shipment for June. It would be about 61 pieces with 2 oversized pieces. The second would be a monthly shipment of dry product coming in from Turkey. It would come in by vessel in super sacks. Then we would discharge it into hopper cars, and it would be railed out the facility. We also have an article and advertisement that will be coming out this week in Thrive magazine. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Have the people come in for the ammonia plant that they contacted you about?
Yes, actually they came in today. We actually had 2 site tours today. One was for the ammonia plant, and another was for a customer that's looking to build a clean energy facility. But we have 3 potential groups interested in the ammonia plant, 1 in the methanol plant, and then we have another one that's in the beginning stages of a clean energy facility. So we've had several visits over the past month and a half of people interested in our properties. Yes, we were awarded 14,000 tons of rice on the USDA tender. It should start coming in today. Yeah, coming in today. And we also have a contract that we're bidding this Friday for another 9,000 tons of rice for May, June delivery if successful.
Thank you. All right, Nick, brings us to engineering.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. All projects are progressing. Obviously not as fast as I would like them, but they are progressing. I did want to give you an update on the Sallier rail relocation. As you can see on your drive-in, clearing has begun. The house has been removed. I attended a construction meeting today with DOTD, the City of Lake Charles, and all the utility companies. So we should start to see utilities being relocated anytime now. I think they've given the notice to proceed to Entergy today. And then out front of our building is the water and sewer pipe. That's the city's contractor that's going to begin work. So we'll start to see the ground right in front of this building getting tore up here very quickly. And then as that progresses, there'll be some phases where we have to wait on them. But at this point, we're going to just keep going on our portion of the rail and get that relocated. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Excuse me. Any lobbying reports other than the written report?
No, sir.
Okay. Executive session?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into executive session.
Second? Second. All in favor?